That is why the top 20% of people are who they are and why they make 80% of the money, because they're the ones willing to go through the struggle that the 80% don't want to. In today's episode, Courtney and I are going to sit down with our friend and insurance expert, Justin Cook, and he's going to break down exactly what you need to be doing to have success in today's times. He shares his exact framework of what his meetings with his team look like every single day, what they're discussing, the importance of over-communication, intentionality, focus. He's going to walk you also through history of being an agent, from being in personal production to moving up to just life insurance, and now being the CEO of his business and really leading others, his team, to do all the production. And he's also going to be talking about his new book, Freedom Beyond Wealth. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we've got a very special guest with us today, insurance professional, author, coach, and our friend Justin Cook. What's up, my man?
Hey, thanks, Michael. Thanks, Courtney, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. I am super pumped for today's episode because you've got a lot of great things going on in your life right now, right? You're crushing it in the insurance space. You have a coaching organization you're about to start. You have a brand new book launching, baby, called Freedom Beyond Wealth. But before we get into all the good stuff, the road hasn't always been easy, right? Like, we've all had our struggles. You yourself experienced having to interview for an insurance agency opportunity 7 times before they gave you a spot, and now you're one of the top insurance professionals in the country. So I would love to just start there. What going through 7 rejections, finally getting your chance, what that felt like, and just kind of, let's just go from there.
Yeah, it didn't feel good, Michael. And the failure never does, but it's also the reason that you continue to grow. And I think early on in my life, at 23 years old, getting into the business, I just set the goal, and I wasn't even aware of looking back, right, of failing 7 times. I just looked at each opportunity because I was a very young professional at the time, where I was competing against bank presidents, people that have had a lot of established businesses and business experience and resources compared to me. So at that time, I just looked at it like, hey, if I don't get this one, I'm going to get the next one, right? And so the perseverance that it took to keep going is really, a big part of the book that I wrote, right? Is I could have quit many times. And there's a lot of different examples in my life where if I didn't keep going, and I wouldn't have hit the goal, right? So I think I was always a competitive kid, played baseball through college, and that was never an option, I guess. I think that's a big thing of it. I didn't have a plan B. The plan A was to be an insurance agent, to be successful, and I knew that from sports, that it took a lot of failure sometimes, losing big games, that you just got to keep going. And so I think so many people today's world cut themselves short. They're so close to winning or the goal, but they quit when it gets really hard. And that's really when you need to double down and embrace. And so, I could contribute a lot of the you guys call success, just to keep going and realizing it's a process. It's part of the journey. It's not the end. The only time it's the end is when you fully just quit doing that, right?
That's right.
So I'm curious, 7 times, why were you rejected that many times? What was the underlying thing?
I was interviewing, well, honestly, Courtney, probably a lot of it was I worked for a great guy, but when I was directed to work for a certain agency, that agency wasn't the top. So, when how it works, when they were recruiting, aspirants or people that wanted to be agents, I wasn't at the top of the totem pole, right? Because I didn't know how it worked, but I quickly figured it out. Some others were getting chose, and not myself, but that was part of it. Part of it, I just didn't have the resources, right? Part of it, I was competing like Nashville, Tennessee, was my like third or fourth interview, and I mean there was 30 applicants, and so in balance sheets, right? And yes, mine was growing, but at 23, 24, 25 years old, I had a lot again. It just didn't come that easy because of the competition. And I honestly, it wasn't always 30. I lost one. It was just two people in El Dorado, Illinois, right? El Dorado, little town, Southern Illinois. And I know the agent there very well now. And she was an ex-bank president and she knew everybody in town. So even though, this is part of the keep going story, right? Like when I lost that opportunity, luckily I had an executive that seen potential in me. And he's like, hey, we're creating an opportunity for him. And so they created additional opportunity just for an area, right? And I sat in that position and was able to work with 3 different agents, right, over a 9-month period, which looking back gave me that much more experience, that much more preparation, and really got to pick through some of the processes. One of them was a year-over-year MDRT, highest level guy, and it allowed me to say, wow, because I spent 2 years with my original agency, and then I could see the contrast and success. I could see the contrast of like, wow, this is how they do it. This is what was happening here. And a lot of it just boiled down to standards, expectations, communication, tracking, all the things it takes to progress.
I love that you bring that up because I always like to highlight where we start and where we end up, because sometimes when you hear somebody that's like you, that is an MDRT agent, you think, how did you get there? And I think it's important to understand that the road wasn't easy and that there were things that you had to overcome, and that's helping to build who you are. You briefly touched on it, but is there any one specific thing that you can contribute to what you learned in that agency or what you implement in your current agency to make you an MDRT agent? Because that was something that you went on to become. So if a new agent is listening right now and they're going through rejection, they're going through not being picked, not being the best, being overlooked, we've all felt like that, have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder.
Maybe not starting out the way that they originally had planned, right?
What's one piece of advice you can give to them as here you are, it's been 15 years plus in the insurance industry, and now you're an MDRT agent with multiple offices, multiple successes. What would be one thing that you're like, if you were me and you were overlooked and you were not chosen and you were not picked, this is what you should do?
Yeah, over communicate. And I'll dive into that. When I say over communication is, are you trying to, when you're setting your goals, right? Are you trying to win the week, the month? I would encourage you to, as a team, number one, to meet every morning. I think from a building a team and a successful team standpoint, we've been meeting for 17 years from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. Let me repeat that. 17 years. And I stole that from the agent that I spent 3 months with. Okay. So so every day has a purpose. Every day we go over, I'll just share it. So every day, like Monday, we're going through what happened last week. What does the production look like? We are going through what happened last week and how do we improve? Where are we weak? How can we help each other? And I want the team to be as vulnerable as possible. Right? That's the culture that I create is I don't care if we fail, right? Be vulnerable. Like nobody's going to make fun of you. This is an open learning environment. And so Mondays, we're going over what happened last week. Tuesdays, we do a gratitude exercise. we do positive Tuesday. So everybody in the room, that's the only thing we focus on Tuesdays. We go around and we share something that's positive in our personal life or business life. Why do we do that on Tuesday? It's very intentional. It's Mondays are rougher days, or more challenging. So Tuesday we want to reset our mind, right? We want to reset our attitudes, right, for the team. And so that's a very powerful exercise. Probably been doing that for 10 years or more. Wednesday, we back away from the business and we look at the business as a whole, right? We look at it as a yearly or a monthly, and we say, okay, here's where we're at on the different goals that we set. So it's more of a bigger picture of what the agency is. It gaining? Is it losing? Is it where are we at on different metrics? And how do we increase urgency? Thursday we role play. You guys do this all the time, right? Like this is something that you all believe heavily in. You have to practice, like practice. And it's one of those things. I jump in and I honestly I don't sell anything anymore, like nothing. And I'm passionate about some of the solutions that we offer, and I'm sure we'll get to some of that. But my role is to lead, right? And so I'll jump in with them too, like all the time. Like I'll just fail, and I think they just knowing that I'm vulnerable, that I'll just do it even though I'm not in the game. I'm just coaching the game. Then it helps. And it's okay for me to fail too. So, and then Friday, we go through what was challenging for the week. How can we end strong? That type of thing. So what I just gave there was 5 days, the way we do it every single week. And, I think there's so many, over time, I've been to so many different trainings, so many different things, right? And I always go back, are we doing the basics? And in my show, that's the basics, right? It's just like sports. Are we getting down on a ground ball? But why are we trying to focus being fancy when we can't even field the ball, right? So it goes back to the very basics of the business. And you guys know I jump on your calls when I have time. I jump on because I'm teaching it, I'm coaching it, and I'm passionate about it, which is, if I ever lost that passion, I would have to relook at things. But there's, I feel Michael and both of your guys' passion when you're coaching, right? And that's honestly, there was a day a couple weeks ago, to give you guys kudos. Like I had a million things going on and I needed your energy. So I literally just jumped on the noon call just to feel your energy. So it works. Like I know you're going to do this breathing exercises and you're going to change your mindset, your mood. And I was like, you know what? I just need that. Like today it was noon. I was sitting at the house because I'm rarely in the offices. I work a lot, but I'm not physically there a lot. So, I really encourage my team members to do the same thing. So Courtney, that's a long answer, but I would say those things, those 5 days, that communication, winning the day instead of periodization, right? Like I think our lives can be so overwhelming if we let them be. But if we say, we got to do this today, this is all you have to do. We just got to get focused, right? Like that's a lot of it is just being focused.
All right. I agree. So number one, I love everything about that, Justin. So I love that because I'm a firm believer, and you know this because we're obviously friends. We've talked. You've been around us for a long time. But if you want to be great at anything, you have to be great at the basics. You said it. Are you getting down on ground balls? Michael Jordan.
Chest passes.
Chest passes and layups. Kobe Bryant. Free throws. Like The greats are great for a reason, and that's because they're great at what they do every single day, every single time, every single game. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's not how do I sell multi-million-dollar life insurance policies? How do I just get good at the conversations I'm having every single day with customers that's going to drive up benefit, drive up premium value? That's just one example. And I love how you're constantly communicating. And we also agree around periodization, major focus, major intention. And that's what you've got going. And I agree, over communication with your team. Because if you over communicate every single day what's important, what the focal point is of the day, without a doubt, that's what everybody's mind is going to be on.
Yeah. And I think the leader is responsible for where we focused, because there's a lot of things that we can be distracted by. And I think when the thing that you're talking about here is the boring stuff. The chest passes, the dials, the cold calls, the follow-ups, that's boring. So we want to abort that. We don't like that. We want to be distracted instead of bored. And I think the more that you fall in love with boring, the more you will excel.
Oh yeah. And you brought up something, Justin, I want to dive into, because I see this, and there's nothing wrong with this, right? As a new business owner wanting to be the CEO of your business. But what I've found out through multiple conversations of highly successful agents like yourself, like myself, and literally hundreds of others, is a lot of new agents see us at 15 years in, 17 years in, 20 years in, right? And you are the CEO, you're leading, all production's going through the team. And I see a lot of new agents that they have a hard time of getting in the business. They want to be that CEO, but they don't have the bankroll to support that CEO role in the very beginning, right? So I'd be very curious as to where you were, if you remember when you started to really start to delegate that production and step more into that CEO role versus in the personal production plus CEO, plus marketing expert, plus community liaison, right? So do you remember a timetable of events when that occurred?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? I think everyone wants everything today because that's the world we live in and we're used to. And I would say one of the worst things you can do, and this is hard because it's the world we live in, but is to compare somebody's chapter 10 versus your chapter 1. Mm-hmm. And I really, where I'm at today is very, very different than when I started. But it's also 20 years later, y'all. So it's called growth and development and pain. Like literally. I'm just being honest, right? Like it's pain. It's
All
the
new
pain.
agents listening are like, wow, super excited.
I'm serious. So you look at this timeline. I think back, and where I'm at today is I really have I'm really grateful for each step, right? Because, people say, well, why could you have just started where you're at now? Absolutely not. Like, there's no way that I could have got the confidence I have today, the experience I have today without the failure. And so that timeline looks like this, is I was basically a team member for 3 years. Okay. So I was only focused on production. I wasn't even responsible for leadership, right? I was just production. I was trying to produce enough to be an agent, period. Okay. So then at the ripe age of 26, I started agency, right? And I had 0 team members. This is what everybody needs to hear. I had 0 team members 3 months in, right? And you know how it is. Like back then it was 9 months or gone.
Yeah.
So I lived at the office. I lived at the, and it was early on in my career, early on in my life. So I didn't have children at the time, all this, right? So I could take the time and I really dove in. But for the from 2008 to, honestly, 2008 to probably 2014. So 6 years. I was a producing agent. I did it all. So I produced 50 to 70 apps a month, probably 10 life a month. So there's some metrics, right? 50 to 70 apps, 10 life. So that's a team member, right? I'm not saying you should do that, by the way, but I am saying that's what I did to get to where I'm at today. So in 2015, I looked at running multiple offices, and I had a mentor of mine at the time that was very successful in our industry, and he said, "Justin, you have to change the way you do business. It's not optional. Like, you have to change, because with multiple locations, you can't produce at a high level in both locations." So I intentionally spent time with this mentor. He had multiple offices at the time as well, and so I started learning and being intentional of getting ready for that opportunity. In 2016, which is 8 years ago, I had the second location, and that forced me. That was really painful, Michael. That second location was like, I was used to killing it, being the best of the best in one location. And then when I went to two locations, I had a lot of challenges at first, right? And those challenges, once again, going through them and not having the option, well, just here, I'm not going to do two, just give me back to one. Could have took that road, but instead I wanted to learn leadership. So I started developing it. So I was still producing probably until 2017, 18. And then I went to only producing life insurance for about 6 years. I said years, not months. Right. I think, and I have team members as well. So I totally get the pain, but a lot of, like, one of my top team members right now, he's 11 months in, and he's one of my leaders, my top producer. And he asked me the other day in our one-on-one, he said, well, where am I at on 5 lily pads? Where do you want me to be on number 5's your best, the best? And I said, you're like number 2. Dude, you're 11 months in. So it's going to take consistency. And I put so much, I put so much stock into being consistent on everything that I do. You guys know that. Mm-hmm. And I believe that consistency is the answer. You said do the board things. You guys know I'm reading 10 pages a day since October for my life. Now, that's a commitment. Mm-hmm. But that's
a lifelong commitment.
That's a lifelong commitment. Mm-hmm. And I'm on book number 16 as of today, starting it.
Congrats, man.
So just doing that 9 months of being consistent. So my point of your question is, I started here, chapter 1, right? I'm here, and in my mindset, I'm just getting started in a lot of arenas, right? And so I just I've always worked to have a growth mindset. My mindset has changed where I'm not, I think a few years back, to be vulnerable, is that I thought the next button would be once I hit next, everything's going to be great. What I've learned through also pain and just studying and a coach, hiring a professional coach, one of the best decisions I ever made in my life 2 years ago, is that I've already got it. I've already won the game. Mm-hmm. It's hard to, working with a coach is one of the first things we did is write down, what do I want? I wrote everything down, and he's like, what don't you have? And it just kind of shifted my whole mindset of, instead of waiting to feel peace, waiting to feel happy, waiting to feel on something next, you should be feeling that today. I feel it right now. I'm blessed to be on the call with you all. Right? I have that in my heart, that I feel good right now. I can't say that always, right? So that has really, and that's a lot of what I've, talk about a book that I have coming out, Freedom Beyond Wealth, and that's a lot of what it's about, is entrepreneurs, business owners, insurance agents, that feel like they have to be happy only when the goal's met. And I think there's a huge gap for type A high achievers right there. Um, and I'm proud, honestly, I'm proud of my own development there because I was one, you guys know me personally, and if it didn't, it was going to happen, right? Because the goal set, it's happening. You know, I even went as far as being vulnerable. This is so stupid looking back, but I said, you know, I'm going to fire my whole team if we don't meet this level, right? What kind of leadership? How did that make your employees, your team members feel? And honestly, I didn't see it that way. Like I did not see it. I did not feel it that way 10 years ago. Like I would have just been like, that's what we're doing. That's the expectation. That's the standard. And you're on or off. Now, I think it's just maturity and experience. But let's just put it this way. There's more love for the team. There's more coaching. There's more realizing this is that you're not going to do it for somebody. And you're no, as much as you want to motivate somebody, they have to want it for themselves. And if they don't, I got news for everybody. You're not going to say anything that's going to like change their whole mindset. You can support it, you can coach it, but it's just like on the ball field. They have to want to win. They have to want to play the game. Like now, there's a lot of but if you have somebody that's coachable and they want to win, that's fun. That's where I love. That's the team members that I've loved. Where I've enjoyed my time the most with them is that, hey, I just want to get better, Justin. What do I need to do? And then we go do it. They fail. We come back. We adjust, figure it out, and get better.
Yeah. You want me to go?
Well, I think it's really easy to lose sight of the ball. I think it's really easy to lose sight of what's important when you're building something. And we get so focused on what we're actually creating that we forget that it's us that we're creating. It's how we're growing and who we're becoming that is the most important thing. And I love that you have such richness and depth about your experience. You have just a shift in perspective, which I consider a miracle. Anytime you shift your perspective, that's a miracle. But I think it's all of that grit and all of the struggle and the sacrifice and the failures, all of those things help you to appreciate when things are going well and when you are growing and when you are expanding. I think that's important to go through that because that also tells us what's important. Like, who do we want to become? Not just what do we want to accumulate. Those are things like, how do we want to expand as human beings? What growth and skill set and knowledge and experience can we gain while we're here? I think that's the point. I think that entrepreneurship, especially in the insurance space, any kind of like fast-paced, high-performing career is the greatest tool of self-development because it points out all of the areas where you need to grow. And I think for us, one of the big things that we've really focused on is what challenges do we want? What problems do we want to solve? Because those things are actually going to help us grow in the ways that we want to. Instead of just trying to buy our problems away or to just get it done, actually appreciating the gold that's there, the challenge that is in front of us. Because if not, we can all be plopped at the top of the mountain, but we will have missed everything that comes with learning how to climb. That's the whole freaking point. Yep. That's why we're here. So, thank you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think everything is in the climb. You know, I mean,
it is.
You have to have these base. Like you have to have grit, right? I love the word grit, right? It's not what happens to you; it's how you react to what happens, right? We all have things. Every person that lives long enough has things that is going to be very, very challenging. It's how we react. How do we reset? How do we use resources? You know, my coach, my situation, I hired a coach, and Courtney, what you said is who you become. That's the first time it came on my radar. Like, and that's sad. And I'm 43, so I was like 41. And one of the things, the deepness of who you become, is one simple question that my coach asked me. He said, you know, who are you? And I was literally sitting in my hot tub on a crisp, cold morning and by myself. And he said, tell me about who you are. And I literally, as I was answering the questions, was giving him things that I've accomplished.
Your resume.
I was giving a resume. I was giving him, hey, I read every morning. I work out every morning. I'm very disciplined. I'm very this and that. And he let me go for a little bit, and he said, that's not the question I asked you. I asked you who you are. And literally, I said to him, I said, give me a second. And I literally went back to when I was a kid. Like, that's the only thing I could think of. Like, okay, what are the qualities? Who am I? And what came to mind was a competitive, driven, loving, supportive, all in person. That's who I am. And that came off right. But I had to really think. And that's kind of sad if you think about it. Like, I had to really think about who I really am. And that foundation kind of took me back to just with him going through the process of coaching in the last 2 years, and a lot of it just purely working on yourself. Like, biggest check I ever wrote for coaching was also the biggest gain self-development that I've ever made.
Yep.
I love that. I'm gonna break this down real quick, because what you just gave was an exercise that our listeners can do. It's a 2-part exercise. So the first thing, when you ask, who are you? Whatever you list first is your value system. So those are the things that you have put on pedestals. Those are things that you are proud of, the things that you have already accomplished. The second layer, when you brought up who are you and you started talking about characteristics, those are results of challenges that you are also proud of too. So when you look at those two things, they really point you in the direction of what you can do to continue to grow that garden, those two things. So obviously, whatever we list off as our resume, those are the things that we're super proud of, and we can keep adding to that. But when we start listing off characteristics like compassionate, growth-minded, abundant, caring, kind, those are all results of lived experience. We experience those. We feel those in our body. And those come as a result of some sort of challenge, experience, moment that you had in your life. So try to bring more of those. An exercise that you can do is really write down, what are some challenges that I can tackle or I can go through, or experiences that I can have that will grow my compassion, that will grow my grit, that will grow a growth mindset, that will grow abundance. Because again, remember, this is all growing us into who we want to be. And I think so many times we put challenge and we put growth and we put that in the hard box. And it's not necessarily hard. It's just to expand us. So look at it as a blessing. That is a blessing.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, growth, development, pain. Like
Yeah.
you said that earlier, and that is spot on, because I believe that we live in a society that is almost like here's the cheat code to success, right? Here's the cheat. There is no cheat code to success. You go through struggles, and that is what you learn, what it takes to actually be successful, to grow into the business owner, grow into the leader, grow into the parent, grow into the spouse, grow into whatever. There is going to be struggles along the way. There is no cheating this. Yes, you can hire a coach. I believe in hiring a coach. I want you to hire a coach. And they're going to be able to coach you through certain experiences, but you still got to feel that pain. You still got to go through that struggle. You are not cheating your way to success. That is why the top 20% of people are who they are and why they make 80% of the money, because they're the ones willing to go through the struggle that the 80% don't want to. Like, they come up on it and they're like, oh, shit. No, I don't want this pain. I do not want this pain. I don't want this sacrifice. I don't want this environment of hard. I am willing to stay stationary where I'm at in my complacent, comfortable situation. And until the pain gets high enough, and it will. That's when change typically happens, or the other route goes to, this isn't for me anymore. I'm going in a different direction, right?
Well, you also have to remember that the process is in place to decide who is
Worthy.
deserving of the outcome.
That's right.
So the process is there to decide who's worthy of this outcome. So the only way is through. That's the only way.
What's the cave? What's the cave?
The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
That's right.
That
That's
is like, I should have that tattooed on me because it is. It's the gold. The thing that you want is through. And to your point, Justin, you brought up such a great thing when you were talking about being a beginning insurance agent, because we went through the same thing. There are 3 resources that you need at the beginning of your insurance agency career. You need time, money, and skill. Most of us do not have money when we start. So you have to earn to be able to buy back your time. You have to earn the money that you need to be able to buy back your time. You have to earn the money that you need to be able to hire out the skills that you don't want to learn anymore. So it comes with a process, but I think this conversation is one that I could have all day, every day, because what happens between our 2 ears, what goes on here, controls everything. It controls how we see the world and how we show up.
And consistency, discipline, obsession. You have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed. And you said it earlier, like when we look back 15 years ago, we were living in a 300 square foot apartment. And so it's amazing. I think we all overestimate what we can do in like a week, a month, a year, and you underestimate what you can accomplish over time. So it's just stick with the vision, stick with the path, take the actions. But I want to get into your book real fast, Justin, before we conclude this episode. Freedom Beyond Wealth. Tell us a little bit about it, like why you chose to write it, what you hope, why you hope, or what your hope is for those that are reading it, get from it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Number one, it comes out June 3rd, and it's really a story of my journey, right, up until 6 months ago. And, for a reader, I wanted to relate, like you said, I wanted to relate to the new person, but also somebody that's longer in their career. That's the old me 3-4 years ago, right? This whole saying of freedom beyond wealth is, we all want to get to it takes a financial means to live today, period. Like, let's not ignore that. We know that's part of it, but I also think I'd put so much more value, like crazy amount of value on my time today. I am such a calendar. I'm here right now on a Monday at 11:50 with my grandma and mom to go out to eat. That's what's important right now, right? It's not I don't think I looked at things that way. So there's no money on that, right? That's pure time. And what is the time worth? And so I think through, you see the grind. Early in the book, you'll see the grind, you'll see the grit. And then later in that journey gets to me where I'm at today, where I really put a lot more focus on what is that worth to you? My son had a basketball championship yesterday and I was coaching it. What's that worth? To me, that's freedom beyond wealth. Freedom beyond wealth is waking up and doing what you want. And we all have things to do. I have to block time to do work, right? I enjoy most of my work. And if I don't enjoy it, I try to delegate it. Like, there's still things that I have to do that I don't love to do because it's just some stuff, right? But everything else, I am literally trying to delegate out of my life. And I look at life as if I had 2 weeks to live. What do I want to do with that? And once I started living that way, because through that 20 years of grind financially, I'm blessed to be able to get to that point. It only after 20 years of grind, right? So I want your listeners to hear that, because they, like you said, you only see this so short, but that's the only reason it happened. So I really, towards the end of the book, I really started focusing on, what do you want to spend the rest of your days? Do you really, what do you, I think about as deep as what really matters. Like, what do you really want? if you had a week to live, what do you really want? That's how I think daily. That's my brain, right? Once again, didn't start there. That's where it's at today. Is if I don't want to do it, I'm going to probably figure out a way not to do it. If I want to do something, I'm going to figure out a way probably to do it. And so really being able to choose what's important to me and live that way. And there's a lot of habits. There's a lot of things I share within the book that are not just, it's just not just an idea. It's tactical, right? This is what I'm doing. I'm reading every day. Do you not think like 16 books, a lot of them are mindset, don't make a difference? Like, I promise you, I should have started this habit 10 years ago. Like, what I'm putting in this brain, I used to listen to Earl Nightingale. You will become what you think about. And it's so true. And so, I also have a coaching side of things with the book that's going to follow in August. And, there's 3 different pillars that I'm really focusing on. Is I'm focusing on the mindset, the habits, the shift perspective, like those type of things, those habits that really get your mind clear and focused.
Yep.
And then I'm talking about processes, increase revenue, delegation, processes to make more money, have more freedom, because it's possible. Right? I was one of the most engaged agents production wise in the country. Now I am I'm one of the most not engaged, meaning I'm coaching, still passionate, but not actually doing the work. From one end to the other. And, I just, the last piece of it, so increase revenue, increase your mindset, but also this sense of gratitude, measuring backwards. If you haven't read The Gap in the Gain, I'm a huge fan. And I never looked at life that way. And once I read that book, there's a lot of days that I stop when I get a lot of irons in the fire, or, there's a lot moving. Maybe it's not one of those days everything's going right? And I stop and I measure backwards. Because if you're always living in the gap, you're always going to have a gap. That's why it's called the gap. You're always going to feel like, okay, if I hit this level, I'm good to go. And guess what? You get to that level as a high achiever, and you don't even appreciate it. You are literally done hitting next.
You just blow right by it, and you're like, next.
Check.
You have zero appreciation for that next. And honestly, I just thought that's the way it was. Like, that's just the way I am. But once getting coached for a couple of years, combined with the Gap in the Gain, now I look back and go, wow, you should be proud of yourself. You should be proud of yourself. Don't, just by being thankful and having gratitude. By the way, I'm preaching to the choir here, because you say on every call, what are you something you're grateful for? But when I wake up, I have an exercise that I do every single morning for probably the last 7-8 years. It's a gratitude exercise. I look at my memories. I look at my kids 7-8 years ago. I look at them crawling. That is a powerful exercise to be able to be appreciative of where you came from, where you're at. And a lot of people would say, well, it's probably not exciting, like always measuring backwards. Actually, it's freeing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It's freeing, and it gives me more energy, positive energy, when I look forward instead of stressful energy. So I think that's huge.
We have a tendency to exaggerate our weaknesses and minimize our strengths. Like, we're really great at running negative stories, but when it comes to celebrating ourselves or being proud of ourselves, we minimize it. And the capacity that you have to celebrate and be proud of yourself is the capacity that you have to do that to others. So whenever you grow something inside of yourself, that gives you more capacity to then give it to others. So if you're struggling with this, if you're struggling with feeling humble. I want to be humble. I don't want to be too boastful. I don't want to be braggy. I don't want to put it all out there. Remember that your capacity to do that with yourself is your capacity to give that to others. So do it for somebody else if that's what you have to tell yourself.
Yeah, and it is fun to see where you've come from, right? It's fun to see that your hard work has paid off. We just did this year in January. We went back through the last 15 years and we broke down by year what we were doing, what we accomplished, right? And it was a 15-year timeline of, yes, struggles, but massive success along the way. And like the gratitude that you feel around where you're at in today's times versus where we were at 15 years ago in the 300 square foot apartment is like, holy shit, we are living our dream life. Like every day we wake up with an immense amount of gratitude that we can have coffee while looking at the lake while the sun's, it's just like every night, sunsets. It's just the little things that you see that do happen over time with correct action, intentionality, focus. It's just like most people do vision boards. Vision boards are fantastic. I love vision boards. I think you need to do vision boards. But also what you're saying, Justin, what you're saying, Courtney, is it's also great to have gratitude along what you've accomplished along the way, because it is so easy to just check the box, move on to the next goal, and not even appreciate all the time, effort, energy, hard work spent in even accomplishing where you've gotten to today.
Well, and even a psychological standpoint, if you don't appreciate, you don't reinforce that neural pathway, you don't drop the dopamine, the serotonin, all of those things, you don't hardwire that in. So you don't know how to celebrate. So when you go to the next goal, if you haven't had any pleasure for achieving the goal, you won't feel it. So then you're going to back away from achieving. So there's a psychological science aspect to this too, that we have to reinforce the behavior that we want to continue. So there's a huge component to that. Justin, I love this conversation. I believe that freedom is being able to do when you want, where you want, what you want, and for as long as you want.
That's right.
And I think that this conversation today is just that. This is gold. Thank you for time with us.
Yeah. So
I've loved this.
what's the best way, Justin, for people to, number one, connect with you? So follow you on social, and then I would say support you with your book. We'll, of course, have the links in the show notes and all that good stuff as well, but would love for you to go ahead and tell people the best way for them to connect with you, follow you, support you.
Yeah, social. Obviously, I'm heavy on social. So also, I have a website, freedombeyondwealthcoaching.com, or a personal message to me. If I look at my messages, and I will, get you in touch with the right person if you're interested. I'm actually starting the coaching side of things, registration and that type of thing will start here in the next couple weeks. Through my first session will be in August. I'm super excited about it. And another thing that I wanted to share, as you were talking, Courtney and Michael, is, everybody, we got so much technology in today's world coming at us. But one thing I would say is that if you want to be good at anything, if you want to be successful in, say, insurance, it's all at our fingertips. It is all, there's so many more resources. Like the value you guys are putting out is incredible. Like you should feel like, and that's why one reason I'm coaching is to change lives in a positive way, right? That's the purpose. I don't have to coach. You probably don't have to coach as much as you do. It's self-fulfilling to help people. At the end of the day, that's what drives me to even do this. It's, John Maxwell said when he wrote, he was never a writer. And he said the only reason he wrote a book, because somebody said to him is, hey, John, why don't you write a book? And he said, I'm not a writer. I don't want to write a book. He's like, but you understand, like if you write a book, how many lives are impacted that you'll never, ever meet? I thought that was so powerful, and it actually inspired me to finish the book. Just because you're touching lives that you never meet, and that's legacy. That's legacy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really what's exciting about the coaching. I'm not wanting to be old. Sign up for this. You know what? I'm confident if you sign up, you're going to get 10 times your value if you listen closely, period. But it's not a sales tactic. It's just, I'm going to pour my heart, just Michael and Corey, just like you all do, into yours. That's why it's been successful. It's because you believe in it, it's purpose, it's passion. if you don't have that into what you're doing, success is just not going to happen. You will quit. You need to find something that you do have that belief in. So
That's right.
thank you for having me. I'm excited. It's been a while since we got to catch up. So thank you for having me on the podcast, and we'll have to connect soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, this has been fantastic. I could have conversations like this all day long.
We could spend a whole podcast day of just having these conversations because it's the most important conversation
right.
is the mindset conversation. I do have one thing. Have you ever read The Magic? We just had our team read that by Rhonda Byrne.
No, I haven't.
It's a 28-day gratitude exercise. You would love it.
You would love it. Yeah.
add that to your list.
It's
good
noted.
one. It's a good one. Justin, this has been great, man. It's funny because I'm going to end with the book because I joke around all the time. I'm like, if you told my lit teachers in high school that that I wrote a book, they'd be like, Michael Weaver didn't write a book. He could barely pass the class. But it's so true, man, and I'm super happy and proud of you. You've been talking about this book for a long time. I know it's been on your heart for a long time. So I'm super pumped for it to come out. I'm super pumped for to read it, and it is going to positively impact a lot of lives. So
It is like birthing a baby. So congratulations
congrats,
on your
man.
newborn.
Huge
that's coming.
accomplishment. Really, really
It's-
big
It
accomplishment.
was a process. It was actually a lot bigger process than, like, it sounds good to write a book. Hey, I want to write a book. But then you're like, holy cow. Like, it is, there's definitely it takes resilience to get through writing a book.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So-
does. It does. Well, Justin, man, thank you for all of those of you who tuned in today. Thank you so much for your time. As always, time and attention are by far our most important assets. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support of The Buzz. Without you, this would not be doable. So thank you so much. As always, go out and make it great, my friends. Justin, thanks again, brother.